All right, welcome back to another episode of the Stitch Method. This one is for all the Phish fans that are out there, and we're going to be talking about Chalk Dust Torture. Now, before we begin, this lesson has been in the making for quite a while, and the more and more I study the song, the more I realize there's a ton to do. So I'm limiting it down to this tension-building theme that Trey Anastasio does in Chalk Dust. There are many versions of Chalk Dust, many different jams, but what we're going to discuss here is probably the most consistent feel that appears in his solos in this song. And if you want to listen, in my opinion, to one of the most stellar versions, I know there's a lot of versions, but the version off of the album Alive One really gives you a good taste of how great that jam can be. And if you listen really closely, you can hear Trey screaming in joy, like really screaming like, yeah, as he's soloing because he's elated at how well the band is doing playing with his tension and release. And it's really a fun version. So this lesson's going to be modeled after that. And there's so much to discuss as to the hows and whys, but we're going to limit it to the tension building stuff, kind of like this. Okay, so I'm going to start my little backing track, and I'll give you a little preface as to what we're going to learn. Just bear with me, because it takes some time to understand, what the theory is, or what the feeling is. Here we go. If I turn the distortion on, that'll work. I'm sorry, tell us to stop on that thing. We're going to be talking about that climbing tension thing and what he's doing. Because, to me, that's the most intriguing part of the jam. So before we get there, we kind of have to really understand what's happening in this jam. Okay, so we have this chord progression that when I was like 15, 16 years old listening to this, I had no idea how to put all this stuff together. But you have an E7 to an A. Over and over again. It's E7 to an A. And that's pretty steady. Now, I will say, when you listen to the live versions, as Trey builds his tension, Page is going to really stick on this E7, and instead of it alternating between an E7 and an A, he kind of hovers on this E7, and you'll hear it when you listen to a live one, or listen to some versions. You'll hear Page do something like this, like this. So there is that element of Page McConnell, that's my cat, of Page McConnell helping Trey build this tension because he's listening and he's sitting on that E7. So if you're playing to a backing track, you're not going to have the opportunity to kind of dwell on that tension and build it, but you will have the opportunity to do everything that we're doing right now. All right, so E7 to A, and we can sit and we can study, what key are we in? And it's really odd to think about, but, hey, buddy. Sorry, my cat is meowing. All right, so E7 to A, it sounds like a mixolydian progression in A, like A being the 1 and E7 being the 5. And it's like, well, okay, shouldn't we be using an E mixolydian because we have the E, the 7, the 5 to the 1, right? And it's like, yeah, that makes total sense, but that's not what Trey's doing. Now, just in case if I'm confusing or if I'm sounding like a madman, you might want to watch my mixolydian versus Dorian video, because it has some insights as to why we're choosing the scale we do. Well, to get the rockin' version of the mixolydian. Now, mixolydian would be the right scale because it's a 5 to 1 progression. Boom, 5 to 1. And we sit and we play mixolydian. As a matter of fact, let me play a little mixolydian to show you that doesn't sound quite right. It sounds more Jerry Garcia-ish than it does Trey in Chalk Dust. Well, if we want to use the mixolydian but it doesn't sound right, well, we have the option to turn the mixolydian into this minor type mixolydian known as the Dorian. And the reason we do that, no, stay with me, the reason we do that is because when we put a minor type scale on top of a major type progression, you get that rockin' sound, okay? So the Dorian mode is what he's going to be using here, and there's a lot of things to do with it, but the Dorian on top of a mixolydian progression gives you that rockin' sound that Trey is kind of really known for. All it is taking the mixolydian mode and turning it into a minor, and the minor third of the Dorian rubs up against the major third of that E7, and they make this like rockin' sound. And that shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, that concept, if you watch Stitch Method and any of my blues videos. So now, hope this is all making sense. Whew. All right, so before we even get to the Dorian, we can first shed this down. The Dorian is a minor mode, and we can shed it down right now to a minor pentatonic. For now, just bear with me. I promise. Just stick with me. You'll do great. The first thing we want to realize is that the minor third of this scale, which is going to be the G right here, E minor or E Dorian. Right now, let's stay with the E minor pentatonic. The thing is that this minor third is a very special note because it's the note that creates the grinding effect, or the rock effect. And when when the band is on the E7, boom, you're gonna hear Trey start to build this tension line with the minor third, and then he's gonna come home to the root note. And right here, this moment, wherever the timestamp is in this video, is where the magic starts to begin. Just like any one of my videos, a lot of people say, well, use this scale and use this scale. It's correct. But the question is, how do we use the scale? And it really depends on the chord structure. E7 to A. The fascinating thing about this is the note that causes tension on the E7 is the minor third, the G, and the note that causes the resolve on the A is the actual E. Now, why? Well, here's an A chord. The E is in the A chord. So if you play a note inside of the chord, it's going to have a resolving effect. So what happens is on the E7, he's hitting the minor third, the G, and then on the A7, on the A, he's resolving to the E. So first thing he's going to do before he even gets to that is he's going to solo a little bit. I'm just going to use the pentatonic. He's just going to come in noodling sometimes, and then you'll start to hear him do this this G to this E as the chords change. G, E, G, 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 E. So listen for it. I'm going to turn my distortion pedals on, and I'm going to play my hey, low, and here we go. Pentatonic, right? There we go. There it is. E and A. Now let's talk about that. Hello, pedals. Let's talk about what I just did there. I played the pentatonic, and then when I wanted to start building the effect in Chalk Dust, I started doing the chord, the notes that build that tension and release. The G, the minor third on top of the E, to the E, which is in the A chord. And then you heard me all of a sudden just take that pentatonic to this note here, which is not in the pentatonic. This is in our Dorian scale. Now let's just go over the shape of our Dorian scale, just so we all know. E Dorian would be 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15. And if you want to get the notes in there, you have E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D, E, F sharp, G. Okay, so we have this scale here. And what happens is the chord progression forces this Dorian mode out of us. And right here we go to this note, just like I did, this. You know, this note belongs to that Dorian scale. So let's talk about what's happening here. What's happening is the same exact thing I did on top of that E to the A, but now he's starting to get into this really cool theory or like vibe that he gets in the song, which is he picks a note that's in the E7 chord, or actually he picks a note that's in the E7 chord, and then also a note that's in the A, and he picks them so close together that you can pick one and bend to it, and then release to the next one. And this is the theme of his soloing in the song. So here, the E7 chord is E, G sharp, B, and D. And so he goes to the C sharp here, and he bends it up to the D on top of the E7 chord. And then when the A comes, he releases it back to the C sharp, which is in the A chord. I mean, this guy's a genius. Any which way you cut it, the guy's a genius. So to make a long story short, you have E, G sharp, B, and D on your E7 chord, and you have A, C sharp, and E. And what he's doing is he's finding a note in the E chord, and he's actually close to the A chord. He's bending it up to a note in the E chord and then releasing it down to the A chord note. And you hear this theme start to develop in his playing. And I hope that made sense. So here, what he's doing is he's taking the C sharp of this A that he knows is coming, and he's going to bend it up to the D that he knows is in the E7, and then when the A comes, he releases it back to this note. This is the effect we get, if I can turn my everything on, this is the effect you get when you apply it properly. Here we go. Now you can hear that while the band was on the E, I took the C sharp of that A, bent it up half step to the D, and then when the A came, released it back to the C sharp. And then he's going to use some crazy Dorian mode stuff in pentatonic to start climbing up, and we'll talk about that soon. We'll start climbing up to his next target. His next target note is going to be this 17th fret on the E string, which is an A. Okay, cool, an A. So hopefully, if I haven't lost you yet, he picks a note in his A chord and he bends it up to a note in his E chord first. The E chord is played, and as the A chord changes, he releases it back down to a note in the A chord. Oh my god, I hope this makes sense. Alright, so he finds his A. Well, where's the closest note he can bend to that's in the E7 chord? Well, he can bend it up to the B. Okay? That B is in the E chord, and as they play the E7 chord, excuse me, my cat again is meowing, and as they go to the A chord, he's going to release it to the A. So what I'm going to do first, and this is going to get like sloppy and messy, is I'm going to start soloing a little bit with the E minor pentatonic first. I'm going to start building the theme with that minor third into the to the E, and then I'll play some pentatonic stuff. You might hear me do some chromatic stuff. To this guy, to the C sharp, bent to the D, to the C sharp, and then I'll sit in that, and I'll start to climb. Use some chromatics, and get up to that A and bend up to the B. Let's see if I can actually execute this in real time. everything, get my feedback. I'm feeding back in such a small room. So now, you saw me do the minor third to the root note, right? You saw me do the C sharp bend to the D, down to the C sharp for the E to the A change. I climbed up this Dorian scale, and I bought myself some time using some chromatics. If you feel like you're going to get to your note soon, then you can climb up chromatically. That's a trick of the trade and helps build tension, okay? So like when it comes to chromatic playing, it's, you know, there are some chromatic fills that you can actually like write, and okay, by theory this makes sense, but really you can buy yourself time. If you know, and then you want to start building, you know, I just use my chromatic step just to build my time so that I can wait a little bit to get to the chord change. Now, you saw me go from the A to the B, then I'm in my form 2 pentatonic, E minor, and then I'll do the bends again, then climb up to that, let's see, 15, 17, 19, 21st fret, right? Yeah, that's right there. That's the C sharp again. Okay, that's the octave higher. C sharp, and then you can bend that up to a D. And this one's the tricky one because here you're in the form 4 pentatonic, but this guy isn't in it. This guy is. So it's a weird feeling. Okay, so you're in your form 4 pentatonic way up on this E, on this guitar, but you're throwing in the C sharp bent to the D. You want it to feel like this, like it feel like this. All right, so now I'm going to try and throw all that stuff together. I'm going to back up just a little bit and get this going. Let's see if I can start with some pentatonics, get into the minor third with the root note, and then get into my C sharp bent to a D, and then get my A bent to a B, and then back to my C sharp bent to the D, all following the E to the A to the E to the A for those bends. I sound insane, but I hope that my Phish fans are enjoying this. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was close. Okay, so let's just talk about that last little thing, and then we'll talk about some other stuff. I kind of almost flubbed it. It was like 97% there. I'm on that last little C sharp D, and I'm using this. It's a form 4 pentatonic way up here. Like I said, it's going to be, but you can sit with it. And then you can kind of cock back to here. Get that D, okay, the 22nd fret, and bend it up to the E. And that's where the solo is going to end, and he goes into the famous, that thing. So, we're not done yet. Oh man, I hope this is making sense. I really do. All right, so let's recap before we get any further. You know, there are so many versions and there's so many things to do. This is like Trey's playing field. He's everywhere on this guitar doing all this stuff, and he's having so much fun, and he's free as a bird, and we're just trying to get like some of the specifics that we hear in his solo, because we can do a Chalk Dust Torture study for hours, but I'm trying to make this as condensed as possible, even though it'll probably end up being a half-hour video. So, long story short, E7 to A7 is an E mixolydian progression, but we use the Dorian because that's the scale that provides the rock sound on top of mixolydian progression. We're going to start off with the E minor pentatonic just to give the feel of the solo. You can always put in some passing tones as he does instead of like, you know, it's very, very free in the soloing with this stuff, and then you're going to start getting that G to the B, sorry, to the E. And we got to talk more. And then you're going to build. Get the C sharp, bend to the D, back to C sharp. All right. Solo, 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 solo. Then we climb up to the A and bend to the B. Solo into form 2. Climb to the C sharp, bend to the D. I'm looking at a camera, what can I say? Alright, and then you get the C sharp to the D. Release it to the C sharp. Solo in the form 4 pentatonic. Then we climb. Get to the D. And get to that high E. And then get into your closing riff, which you can look up the tab for on any guitar site, so I'm not going to go to that, but you can learn that part. But now, I hope you're smiling going, yeah, this is it, but we have more to do. Let's just talk about the soloing structure. It's tension, release, solo, 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 build to the tension. You're probably like, what the heck was that? Well, if you listen, I'm just going to start the looper. The way that Trey does this theme, now, he doesn't stick to it 100% of the time. I mean, he kind of messes around with stuff, but the theme, if you want to practice and get tight, if you watch the David Letterman, they played on David Letterman, I just realized this, you're seeing my thoughts like occur as they happen. They played a very condensed version of the song because it was on TV, so you can hear him do this with like pretty much the exact way we're talking about because he was under time constraints. But live in concert, he can do this for a half hour where he's playing all over the neck and he's not doing it as per the book as we're talking about it, but this is like the condensed version. So if you listen carefully, you're going to be eventually going like tension, release, tension, release, solo and have some fun, and we build to the next tension and release and tension and release. And we solo, we have some fun, and we build to the next tension note, and we get some tension. I sound like Richard Simmons sweating to the oldies. All right, so with that effect in mind, I'm going to turn on my distortion pedals, and I'll try and like show you. Now, when it comes to the soloing, just have fun. Just have fun in your pentatonic. Have fun in your Dorian scale. Have fun trusting yourself, doing whatever you want, but as you get close to that tension note, you want to start building up to that. Now, we'll talk about the building, but let's, oh my god, I hope this lesson's okay. Let's talk about that stuff really quickly. So, sorry about that, but do it. My looper came unplugged. Here we go. Tension. Build. Tension. Release, tension, and release, solo, and now we build, tension, release, tension, and release, and solo, and then we build. Okay, now, I hope that this is working. The last thing I want to talk about, and there's so much more to do, but you can see I don't want to make a 3-hour video. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is just how Trey kind of builds some tension. There's two things that he does in these solos. This is kind of like a bonus section. You'll hear him repeatedly do this stuff like this. And what that is, really quickly, he starts on the B, which is on the E chord, goes to the C sharp, on the A chord, goes to the D, which is in the E7 chord, back to the C sharp on the A. That riff, and you hear it in every chalk dust, is based on the chord progression. E7 chord tone, A chord tone, E7 chord tone, A chord tone. Point and example. Okay, now, So what he just does there is he follows, and this is important, and this is why I brought up the Dorian scale, is he's starting on the B, do, 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 C sharp, D, C sharp. If you want to play it like this in the scale shape that we discussed, B, C sharp, D, C sharp, and then what is he going to do? He's going to play the Dorian scale, and he's going to throw in the flat 5, and then he's going to go to his next, like, tension release or solo. And you get this effect like this. I'll do it again. I'll do it. Do, 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 do. Follow that Dorian scale. To the flat 5. Okay. And then he's going to solo. So let's see if we can get this going here. That's a little trick of Trey that he does when he wants to build tension in his soloing with a little theme. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the power of the 5. If you take that form 3, I know it's a lot, and again, for my Phish fans, I hope you're enjoying this. If you take the power of the 5, okay, actually, if we take our form 3 pentatonic, form 3, which would be on that 17th fret, there's the root note, just like that. Your never lost pentatonic, that third shape. That's the 5 of the scale. That's your B, and power of the 5. You hear him do this a lot. He's going to go 5, flat 5, 5 to the minor third, to the 1. And you hear him build tension on this little line too. When he doesn't want to build tension with the chord tone bent up and down, he uses coming off the 5 a lot, like any normal guitar player, you know, especially Trey. So you're going to hear him play, like, again, 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5. You'll hear him do this, like... And that guy right there, pardon me, that guy right there that I did is a good thing to put in right before you get to the high C sharp. So, before we end, E7 to A is an E mixolydian progression. Trey puts the Dorian on top to create that rockin' sound. He'll start off with some pentatonic riffery. He'll play this minor third on top, go home to the root to start creating this tension release. He'll solo in between the tension release and climb up to his next tension release. When he wants to break this theme or get away or have some fun, he's going to use these riffs based off of the B, which is the 5, okay? And he's going to, you know, this one down here we talked about is, you know, B to C sharp to D to C sharp, and that goes really with the chord tones. I hope that I explained that well earlier. And then also he's going to use that form 3 pentatonic coming off the B, you know, B flat A or 5, flat 5, 4, and build tension before he gets to that C sharp. So now I'm going to probably take the worst solo of my entire life, and let's see if we can get everything going. Let's see. I was halfway through that awesome solo, and I swear, and I'm not going to get religious, I swear to everyone we swear on, I didn't mess up. My camera just stopped recording. I guess there's a half-hour limit on a DSLR camera to record video. I'm really upset. So now, I'm just wrapping up the video. Here's the solo with everything. Man, that sucked, and I swear, and I'm trying to, like, feel me, man. I didn't mess up. I just looked, and it was like, stop recording automatically, and my heart sank. So here we go. Let's see if we can... do it again. Let's see. upset about that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it made sense. Ask questions in the comments, and I'll hopefully get it going. But there are the main themes. Your ingredients you need to know are the minor pentatonic, the form 2 pentatonic, the form 3 pentatonic, the form 4 pentatonic. Some knowledge of where your chord tones are. Let me know if you want a chart for this. If you want a chart, let me know. Hey, I want a chart, and I'll put a chart together explaining everything, maybe a little bit more on the neck. Thank you so much for spending and hopefully not wasting your time with me. Rock and roll, Phish fans. Talk to you soon.